Mr. Newman, I understand you've written quite a few books in numismatics and so forth. What are some of these books you've written?
I've written the fantastic 1804 dollar with Kenneth Brissett as co-author. I've written the early paper money of America, which is published in 2 editions, the first being 1967 and the second edition in 1976. I've written monographs called The Secret of the Good Samaritan Shilling, another, The Coinage for Colonial Virginia. I have edited the American Numismatic Society publication on coinage for the Americas for the 1976 centennial. I've written a great many articles for the Numismatist, for the American Numismatic Society publications, and for the various coin newspapers and other matters. So my life has been researching and writing original numismatic subjects, and that's been my pleasure for many, many years as an amateur who has been engaged in other things. I educated as an engineer, graduating from MIT, and graduated from Washington University Law School in St. Louis, and I've practiced law all my life for a national chain of retail stores, the Edison Brothers Stores, Inc. So I've had a very full life of excitement in numismatics as a cultural pursuit. My beginnings in coin and currency collecting were at the age of 7. My grandfather gave me an 1859 United States cent, and that was something that was unusual to me, and I began collecting Indian head cents as many other young boys did at the time. I spent my 5-cent and 10-cent allowances for coins instead of buying sodas and ice cream and what have you, so that slowly but surely my investment at that rate got me a few unusual coins. We could buy at that time large cents in reasonably nice condition, and copper colonials and a few other items for 5 and 10 cents, and that was the basis on which I began. But the most fortunate thing that happened to me was when I was approximately 10 years old, the Burdett G. Johnson, who was the coin dealer in St. Louis, Missouri, St. Louis Stamp and Coin Company, he told me, "Eric, you cannot buy this coin because you don't know anything about it." And therefore he loaned me a book, and he said, "If you read the book, I will be glad to sell you the coin after you understand the coin." So I did that, and that was the most fortunate thing that ever happened to me, because I began to borrow books from his library, and as I acquired coins, I learned the history and background of them. So that by the time I was at the mature age of 13 and 14, I was reasonably informed as to certain phases of United States coinage. So I collected vigorously. At that time, we could buy a pine tree shilling for approximately $15 to $20, and I began, with my father's help and my mother's encouragement, to collect in the colonial field. And then slowly but surely, my collection continued. When I went off to college, there was a reasonable pause in my collecting and research efforts, so that I could get educated. But I began to have the opportunity to have contacts with the early, to me, as I look at it today, the early fine dealers that contributed so much to the science and hobby of numismatics. I knew Henry Chapman, visited him in Philadelphia and bought things from him. I knew D.C. Wismer, who was the expert in paper money of all sorts, and had an opportunity to know him. Waite Raymond encouraged me to do research and to write, and so some of my original writing was for him in his publications, and I did work on the Fugio cent for him and the Continental dollar of 1776, and so my writing career began around 40 years ago with that encouragement. I knew all the other dealers, B. Max Mell, Thomas Elder, Morton and Joseph Stack, anybody that treated me right, I enjoyed the experience. Then I knew some of the early collectors, and they encouraged me. Fred Boyd of Ringo's, New Jersey, was an experienced collector, and he did everything to have me study and research many of the areas in the colonial field. I knew William Clark of the American Numismatic Society, who was always cooperative in finding me books or information. I knew Sidney Noe very well of the same organization. Howland Wood helped me. So I had those as research scholars who could be fun for me to work with. Then along came, I go back to my college career when they had the experience of knowing Colonel Edward Howland Robinson Green, who had the famous Green collection, who was the son of Hetty Green. He was interested in MIT, where I went to college, and he allowed us to use the radio station which he had at Round Hill, Massachusetts, and we communicated with Little America when Admiral Byrd was down there, and that's how we got to know Colonel Green. Of course, he was a very eccentric gentleman, and nothing as eccentric as his mother might be called, but he at least was good-hearted in encouraging us to have the opportunity of doing things. But that, he of course acquired an enormous collection, and when he died around 1935, I believe, in due course I had the opportunity of buying items from his collection, which was a great treat. However, the most important encouragement to my writing became available at the American Numismatic Association. The Numismatist had been published since 1888, and I was slowly acquiring a complete set of the Numismatist, and I'm proud to say I have a full set of the Numismatist in its original wrappers generally. And so the editor of the Numismatist at that time was Elston Bradfield, who was very, very cooperative in editing material and in guiding me in the type of material that would be desirable. So I began collecting information and writing for the Numismatist. And so this was a very enjoyable thing for me to do, because I felt as though it was reaching a number of people, and I was very much interested in education. So I received Heath Awards from time to time.
How many altogether?
Well, I don't know, but they tell me it must be 14 or 15, and that I probably have more than anyone else at this time, but that's not very important. The nice thing about my writing is that I've always been loyal to the ANA because of this outlet for my writing, and I picked on different subjects so that I began to spread, although I began in the colonial coinage field, I began to spread to colonial paper money, and then into United States coinage, and then into various types of other money problems. In the meantime, I continued collecting rather vigorously, so my collection is primarily in the American field with paper money as well as coins and tokens. There was no limit to my collecting, and I began to acquire foreign as well. And as the collection grew, it got to be rather large. And so I began to realize that I would have a very large collection and I ought to do something with it. So in 1958, I organized a not-for-profit corporation called the Eric P. Newman Numismatic Education Society, and that was for the purpose of helping other people write and for exhibiting some of the coins in my collection so that the public could enjoy them. And in due course, that established a museum in St. Louis, Missouri called the Mercantile Money Museum, which is open to the public and which has exhibits for public benefit. And so that is my way of having different themes and interesting people in the history of the numismatic science. And so that is my goal, to keep that museum operating in my own way. Now, that has encouraged people to write to me to use my library, and then which had been built up over the years. So I have a very large American numismatic library. I collect all editions of all books published in America, and it is a pleasure to trace the development of research through those writings. Now, in the meantime, I joined another organization, and that is the American Numismatic Society. I've been a member of American Numismatic Society for 30 years at least, and now I'm on the council, which is the board of trustees that operates that scholarly institution in New York City. And so I'm loyal both to it and to the American Numismatic Association, which is the collectors organization. So I've been honored by the American Numismatic Society by being given the Archer Huntington Medal, which is the highest medal given worldwide from that organization. And I've also been honored by the American Numismatic Association in being given the prestigious Farron Zerbe Medal. So these two have given me everything that I could ever want in the way of recognition, and it's a pleasure to have both of those. Now, I have had wonderful experiences in numismatics because I've made some very close friends and had a working relationship with a number. Kenneth Brissett, who is now the educational director of the American Numismatic Association, has been my friend and my co-worker and my sounding board for many years. And we're as close today when we cooperated in the fantastic 1804 dollar. That's 25 years ago. We've been friends ever since. And even before that, he helped me very much in publishing my early Paper Money of America, which was the result of years of research. I read all of the laws of the colonies of America with respect to money, and that was a real workout. And I studied all of the collections throughout the world, and this enabled me to assemble the material for that book. And so that Kenneth Brissett stands out as the closest person in numismatics that I've had the privilege of working with. Then I became very close to Margot Russell, who was the editor of Coin World for many years, and we worked together on many projects, and she was very helpful to me in arranging for me to be I guess chairman of the Bicentennial Commission of the United States at the 1976 a celebration. This was chairman of the Coins and Metal panel, and that was a little fun, but politics, of course, as always. When I attempted to reduce the amount of money that the government was spending for some of the projects in connection with that episode, why I was told that I was my chairmanship did not extend that far, that I could not get into that. Now, I've had a lot of wonderful experiences in lecturing. I've been on the educational forum of the American Numismatic Association for several times, and one of the most exciting was in Atlanta, Georgia in 1961, when I pronounced the 1804 dollar and the 1805 dollar, which had been written up in the Numismatist in June of that year. I said they were both alterations, and I was threatened with suit, and everybody who tested the metals and studied them and so forth and so on. Well, that really was very exciting. And so I've been in some very, very rough situations from time to time when my opinions were different from transactions that had taken place, and the result was, of course, that my opinion was accepted and the matter was put to rest. I solved the alteration of those coins in my sleep, which was a very odd thing to do, but when you concentrate on something, I couldn't figure out how the alterations were made, and it worried me for days, and I had not seen the coins. I'd only had pictures of them, and I determined I was going to see the coins, and so my mind was just churning with that when I went to sleep, and of course in the middle of the night I realized that the stars on the 1804 and 1805 alteration pieces had been aimed in different directions by shaving the points of the stars. So I know how hard I can concentrate even when I'm at rest. But I've jumped around in as I say, lecturing. I teach at the American Numismatic Society summer seminar, and I've been doing that for many years. And those are graduate school students who are interested in numismatics, and I teach there a course on Benjamin Franklin. I've lectured throughout the country to various coin organizations, to various historic organizations, and many other groups. My most prestigious lecture, I think, was at the American Philosophical Society, where I did a lecture on Benjamin Franklin, which they have at every one of their meetings, and my phase on Benjamin Franklin was, of course, his printing and ideas for paper money. And so I've done a great deal on research on Benjamin Franklin's contribution to coinage in America, to the adoption of the continental currency, to the mottos on it, to the emblems on it, to the creation of the Fugio design, to the creation of the 13 interlocking link design, and to his whole life. He's my hero, so I've studied his printing techniques and all of his great contributions to the world that related to numismatics. My other hero is Matthew Boulton, the father of the Industrial Revolution, so to speak, in England, who ran the great Birmingham Mint, the Soho Mint, which he and James Watt had worked together to produce coinage machinery, which was the tremendous advance in the field. So I spent a week in Birmingham, England, studying everything connecting Matthew Boulton with numismatics, and that was a pleasure. I've been through all of the collections of coins at the Chase Money Museum. I knew all of its material. I knew all of the material of the American Numismatic Society that I wanted to study. I've been at the Greenfield Museum in Detroit. Naturally, I've done a lot of work at the Smithsonian, but of course that's been limited because they were never able to let people doing research have full opportunity to do that.
Thanks.
In order for a person to contribute as much of his time and his family's time to numismatics, it's has to be adjusted from a family point of view, and my wife has been tremendously supportive in encouraging me to write and to do research and to collect. And she, in her own way, has done many more things than I have in the way of accomplishment. She is organizes business, she organizes charities, she organizes activities, everything for human enjoyment imaginable, and has done so much. And by virtue of her successes, it has enabled me to help her, and likewise she helps me. So it's a team effort as far as we're concerned in doing things for numismatics. I've had, of course, harrowing experiences. I was called by the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee in connection with the Lilly collection in regard to the passage of an act of Congress to give a state tax credit to the Lilly collection and to acquire the Lilly collection from the Lilly estate. And they asked me to come to Washington to discuss what I was going to testify to. And when they found out what I was going to testify to, the committee hearing that was scheduled for me was canceled, and they passed the bill without listening to what I have to say. But I don't, that's just normal politics as things are crammed through and someone is going to say something that they don't want. So I've had so many nice experiences. At one time, Scotland Yard in England asked me to give testimony with respect to a coin in England involved in a murder case, and that was very peculiar. And when I investigated an auction in England at one time, I was reported to the FBI as being a spy when they refused to tell me the source of the coin, which I was very, very seriously trying to find out. And they ran me out of a little town in southern England by virtue of their actions. So that was a little fun. So when I was on my honeymoon in 1939, I discovered a large collection of Georgia colonial notes in Montevideo, Uruguay, while I was watching the Graf Spee burn in the harbor of Montevideo as the end of the first naval battle of World War II. So that was a combination piece of excitement and for a honeymoon, as well as a numismatic excitement. The most unusual thing that's happened in my life is I determined there had to be a coin of production at Machen's Mills, which combined the Connecticut coinage with the British halfpenny counterfeit coinage which was going on. And for many, many years I looked for such a coin. I thought it had to be. And sure enough, I discovered that in 1958 and wrote it up for the American Numismatic Society publication at that time. But that was a real thrill to figure out that a coin should have existed and to find one day that it did exist. So my life has been just charmed by numismatics throughout, and I hope to keep researching and keep spreading the fun of numismatics with others. I've been, of course, very fortunate from a point of view today that I bought a great many of my items in the past and have enlarged my collection to include such things as coin changers, scales, coin scales, weighing devices. I have all kinds of coin cartoons. I have all kinds of pictures of mints and of Bureau of Engraving and of paper money production, and also the newspaper and magazine articles that came out at the time new coins or new paper currency came out. I have a large collection of counterfeit detectors. I have a large collection of pamphlets, exchange ratios, farmers' almanacs, other almanacs that showed the complication of money exchange in America during the period prior to the 1857 redemption of all of the Spanish and Mexican money that was circulating in this country. And in this way, I get a tremendous amount of excitement from delving in new fields, because I will not rehash anything that's been written before. I will only do original research. And with that as a guide, that is an excellent way to write and be excited by it. My last comment is I adopted a principle of non-commerciality very early in life, so I never sell a coin or a piece of paper money. I will exchange a duplicate, but in this way I don't get involved in the commercial end, which is an only buy. And so that makes my life a lot pleasanter because I don't like to enter into all the business problems which I realize have to arise in the commercial end of numismatics. Thank you very much for the opportunity of telling you my story. I hope others have as wonderful experiences in numismatics as I have.